Hey guys, Dan Chan here. I'm guessing that a lot of the newer gamers don't really know a whole lot about keybinds just because it's not an advertised feature. You can actually access certain things a lot easier if you just bind them to a key. So you just press that key on the keyboard and then that thing takes place. Unfortunately, if you're on a console, that's PlayStation and Xbox, you don't have access to these features, but for PC, you're already using those features, and I'll show you. You would press the escape and you get this, and then you can go to the options menu. If you go over to the left tab here and look at, and just click this thing here, it'll show you the keybinds that are already in the game. Now I've already bound a lot of keys differently, so now these aren't going to necessarily match up with what you have, but most of them are the same. So like your forward, back, movement, these are your movement keys, your WASD or WASD keys, your jump, space, all that neat stuff. I recommend that if you're interested in keybinds, just take a look what's already in here, because there's stuff that you might be interested in doing that is not bound. And if you wanted to, you can actually assign another key to a keybind. So that's just a few things. So I'm going to just start out with, now this is not just going to cover VIP, but I'm going to start out with those to just kind of get them out of the way for the people that are here, just kind of get a little of everything. So if you have VIP, there's different levels of VIP obviously, and some of them you're going to need higher levels for certain of these commands. And the first thing that you are able to do at level 1, I'm going to pull up the VIP thing here. It's just this little icon up here. So this is the root menu for VIP. There is actually a command to get to this. I don't have it handy, but there is a command to get to this in general if you wanted to do it this way. But there's also direct keybinds to every one of these things. Some in the mailbox, some in the travel signpost. And again, if you want to go to VIP info, it tells you what you get at different ranks. So this is going to give you a general overview of everything. So rank 1, you're going to get a signpost. Signpost lets you basically interact. You can travel around the world. You don't have to run to a gate or another signpost. So that command I have bound to my F5 key. So if you wanted to use, if you say you don't have those and you want to be able to use commands anyway, but you want to keep the existing ones, you could just bind something to a combination of, say, like shift plus a letter or a number, or control plus a letter or a number. Just keep in mind some things, like if you press control, sometimes it does this. I'm just going to kind of walk you through the other VIP benefits that are handy to be able to bind to a key. So like F6 I have bound to my mailbox. I can just pull that up and pull up my mail. And F7, I'm just going to move out of the way here. That's through the bank. See, it's your personal bank. And then we'll move on to F8, which I have bound to my professions vendor. Okay, that one will sell you professional resources. All right. Also, F9 to the seals vendor. So that's that. So that was basically the VIP stuff. There is also one to go to the Moonstone Mask. Not really critical, so not something I want to waste a key on. Also, there is one that actually just takes you to this root menu, so if you don't want to use a different key for all of these, you could just use that command. If you're interested, I will make sure to add that to the comments section below this video, but for now I'm kind of leaving it out. Just again, something I don't do directly. It's just easier for me. If I want to summon the mailbox, I don't want to have to go pull this up and then press that to get the mailbox. I want to actually get, go directly to it. So that's that. And then let's look at some commands that we already have binds for, but that are more conveniently located if you can rebind them. So like again, I use the mount command, and I have that on my T key, which is again really close to where my other commands are for threat combat. And then there's also invoke. I have that bound to F3, and for the change character menu, I have that bound on F4, but I actually have a combination command on that. I have the invoke and the gotocharacterselect menu. Because this is a combination command, those things happen so fast, it's not going to stop the change character go to character select menu when I do this. So if I press that, it's going to go ahead and you saw that that menu popped up, but it didn't stop me. So now I'm back at the character select menu. So let's go back into the stronghold. So I'm going to show you my inventory right now. I've arranged it a little bit differently, but right now I'm just looking at consumables. So like your cured barbecued meat or cured meat works equally well, but this is something that heals you over time. It's kind of my emergency backup. So if I've used my healing potion in combat and it's still counting down on the timer, but whatever thing I'm fighting is either hitting me with a heavy damage over time, or I'm just taking too much damage and I need another emergency hit of healing, I can activate this, but I don't want to have to pull up my inventory to do it. There is a method, a keybind you can use to actually pull that from your inventory. So right now I've got that bound to my number pad 7, and that's going to hit me with a heal. And as you can see, it's now counting down. Also, I have an altar. Yeah, those are great out of combat. Well, what if you can just go ahead and pull up an altar, from your inventory? You just push that keybind. Well, rather than having to pull up your inventory, right-click on the altar, then click Use. Well, here you go. You have this. It would be helpful if you combine that command with, say, a chat menu thing that says altar here. Yeah, you have that ability so that other people that are paying attention and around you, well, hopefully they'll notice the altar, or you can tell them ahead of time, hey, if there's going to be a break between someone has fallen in combat that wants to remove that death sickness, can run over here real quick to this altar. And finally, what if, also when you fall in combat, you tend to lose all of your buffs. So you notice right now, let's review all my status effects. So what I've got potency from, that's a companion buff that you can get when he's near you, right? But there's no other short-term buffs in here. So what if I want to use some? Well, you can actually chain up to 3 buffs. You notice I've got the pinata in here too, but you can actually chain 3 things to one command so that I'll activate at once. So let's look at that in action. I obviously wouldn't be using Anniversary Ham, but I don't want to waste all my really good buffs here, so let's do that. I'm going to pull up my Flax of Potency, my Anniversary Ham, and my Ratatouille, and let's try to get that done. I've got that bound to number pad 9, and there you go. So let's see if it shows it in inventory. It showed a quick count for that, and down to 1 ham and stuff. So let's look at my status effects. So what do I got now? Well, I've got the Anniversary Ham clicked in now. I've got my Flax of Potency and my Ratatouille here. That's all giving me the benefits of their consumable effects. Now, obviously, if you've got a long-term effect, you probably want to add in maybe even another key, because stronghold foods like Ratatouille are going to persist through death. So you only really kind of need to hit yourself with that right at the beginning of combat, and it lasts for quite a while. Whereas the Flask of Potency and the ham, and I'm not sure, I think there's some other buff foods that you can get. So there are different types of things that will stack in here. So if you want to use 3 of those, link them up. If you only want to use 2, link those up. And these can be really handy, especially rather than having to keep jumping back and forth and activating this and then activating that and waiting and stuff. You have that ability. Let's look at some more. So boons, my F2 bound to that, and I go directly to the boons menu. But there are also a lot of commands that aren't in that keybind option menu, and I'm barely scratching the surface of them, but I'm going to try to give you the ones that I use that are really, really useful. So another one is, again, this is just rebinding stuff that's already out there. So there is a rewards claim up here. Normally that is it's a combo command, but just like the invoke command, I don't like having to press 2 buttons to do something that's fairly simple. So I have it bound to 9. So if I press 9, there you go. I've got my my heroic reward. Then there is a kind of a really handy one, which is resummon your companion. If you go into combat, your companion generally has, if you have a decent companion, they generally have a power that they'll activate pretty much right away or within the first few seconds of combat. Well, the trouble is there's a cooldown on it, and if you want to reset that cooldown, you either need to wait or unsummon him, which you could do from this menu here. You go to companions, you actually just click update automatically. You just change the update, right? And it just resummons them as the different skin, basically. So if I click it again, here we go. So once you get out of combat, if there's like a break between, helpful to do this so you can basically refresh the companion's power. This is also really helpful if you're in an area where for whatever reason your companion gets stuck somewhere, so you show up there and you're like, where's my companion at? You can just click this power and again they disappear from wherever they're at and then they resummon right next to you. So here's some that aren't normally accessible for that other menu. So one of the first ones is follow. So I have that bound to B. If I press B and I'm aimed at the companion or any other entity that moves around, say like another player character, or when you're doing the Protector's Jubilee where you're following the merchants to protect them, this is kind of handy. Also handy if you're like doing hunts or something and you're following another player. You don't necessarily have a path to follow and you may be on mounts that are a little faster than them, so easier to just click on the follow, and then when they move along you're just following along just like this guy is. Okay, so you can, to break that, you just use another movement key, right? But there is actually another command. So like if you know, no matter where he is on the map, as long as it's on the same map, I can resume the follow, which I have bound to Z, which, you know, there's not a whole lot of other purposes I think for Z. And you know, he just basically just goes back to following whoever he last was set to follow to. So that's follow, resume, and follow. And then again, there is one that I find really important. I'm going to run over here to like an interactable object here, which is, let's interact with the steward. Okay, so this is the interact command. I mentioned this in a video I did for the Winter Festival. It's really handy when there are a lot of NPC or a lot of players or other objects in between you and the thing you want to interact with. So interact, it's not like the normal command. So normally it says press F to talk to Stuart. Well, the default for F in the game is what they call interact and loot. But it does, you know, it does more than just loot. But it's basically interact plus it also works. You know, it'll let you interact with characters, other players, obviously NPCs and vendors. But it also lets you revive characters. There's just a whole lot of things you can do with interact and loot. Interact, on the other hand, is just to interact with a vendor or an object. What I'm kind of beating to death here is don't underestimate the value of keeping that key. In fact, I would recommend not unbinding or changing that key whatsoever. Just keep that in place and bind this to G. Normally G is used for the guild, so that kind of brings to mind before you add keybinds to anything, I recommend that you make a practice run. Basically use that key first to see if there's anything bound to it already. Let's do a combo command with my vendor. So if I have a combination that when I summon my professions vendor, not only am I summoning the vendor, I'm also pulling up the UI that I have saved that has the inventory set to sellable only. So just a simple combination, because I like to, if I'm going to pull up professions vendor, it's generally because I want to sell some stuff and get it out of my inventory. Obviously I can clear this later and, you know, do whatever I need to do, but that is very handy for that particular thing. What if you wanted to make an alias? What's an alias, you say? Well, an alias is basically, you can take any command and you can rename it. Basically, the idea behind an alias is you're taking a long command and you're gonna shorten it. So we did our alias. Alias, we're gonna do invite, or inv, and then we're gonna do our at later. Hold on, number 32795. Okay, that's creating my alias. Now to actually activate the command, you still have to use the slash. So I'm going to use inv, and that should send out my command. So let's just do this. Here's another handy command. Clear. Now I get rid of all the stuff in my chat box, because this is actually set correctly now. I've got alias for this command is now inv. When I type that, it's going to send out a party invite to this other character. And you can combine those two. Obviously, it's time-consuming typing that particular one. But the trouble with aliases is there's no save command in the game to save your aliases anywhere. You can have different aliases for different groups. So if you're an organizer or somebody who likes to invite the same group over and over, say like you're doing I don't know, multiple Demogorgon runs or multiple Demon Web Pit runs where you're trying to do the first mini boss and you're farming for the Godsword or something, then kind of handy to be able to just invite people back into the party after everybody abandons. Once you finish the mini boss, then you're going to abandon and go back and restart. If you want it to persist, you just create a text file called command aliases. I'm going to just jump out of this, and we will go over here to this folder, and in that file is typically going to be, as again, if you are on playing through Arc, then you're probably going to find it in or need to put it in the live folder, and it's going to be the same place wherever your Keybinds are in your UI settings file. Otherwise, it's probably either going to be in Neverwinter_en or Neverwinter, wherever your Neverwinter.exe file is, again, if you don't have the live folder. So I'm going to go back to that one. Whatever you want to do, your whole group, separate them out with the $signs, so you can invite multiple people, and then this is going to be whatever your command is, and you just put that in your command aliases file. So you can create different aliases for different groups, and then all you're going to do to activate them in the game is / and then whatever the alias is. And that's all I got for you now. Hope this helps. GG, happy gaming.